Imagine a time when your next meal depended on an arrow and your survival on a prayer.
In the heart of the great winter, they survived not just by their tools, but by their wits, their community, and their beliefs.
At the heart of their community was the shaman, an intermediary between the world of flesh and the vast, unseen world of the spirits. The long winter had been hard. The great herds were scarce, and the shadow of hunger was stretching long over the clan.
Every hunt was a life or death gamble, a roll of the dice against the immense power of the Ice Age megafauna. Before every hunt, a small ritual, a plea to the spirits for keen eyes, steady hands, and a safe return. They walked for days, their hope dwindling with every empty valley, every silent, frozen plain. And then, a sign, a lone giant, a chance to save their clan.
But the spirits of the wild were not with them. The wind, a fickle ally, betrayed them at the final moment. They returned with nothing. Their skill had failed them. Their courage was not enough. They needed something more.
They returned not with the spoils of a hunt, but with the heavy burden of failure. Their return was met with a quiet despair. The fire, the heart of their clan, seemed to shrink with their fading hope.
The failure was more than a lack of food. It was a crisis of spirit, a loss of the hunter's confidence, the very edge of their survival.
The shaman saw not just empty bellies, but spirits. A sickness that no plant or And so, she turned her gaze from the world of men to the world of spirits, searching for a sign. The sign was given. The spirits had not abandoned them, but they demanded a tribute, a ritual, a deeper connection. When skill and logic failed, the hunter turned to the shaman, the leader of the physical world, bowing to the leader of the spiritual. She accepted the responsibility to heal the clan's broken spirit and to bless their hunt.
The great ritual required preparation, a cleansing of the body, a focusing of the mind, a journey.
The clan waited. Their faith, their future, now rested in the hands of the one who could. Her fast was complete. She emerged, not weakened but refined, a vessel purified and ready. Her tools were not of war, but of spirit. Ancient instruments, passed down through generations. The first part of the ritual was the journey, a pilgrimage to the sacred places where the earth offered up its pigments. Red ochre, the color of blood, the color of life. To the ancients, this was not just a pigment.
The gathering was a ritual in itself, a careful, respectful taking, with a silent promise to the earth to use its gift wisely.
Then, the black, not from a simple campfire, but from a tree touched by lightning. They returned not just with pigments, but with the raw materials of magic. The ritual could not take place in the world of the living. It had to be performed deep within the earth, in a liminal space between worlds.
They entered the sacred chamber, a place outside of time, a direct connection to the spirit world that lived within the rock.
She prepared the stone, cleansing it, making it ready to receive the spirits of the hunt. The ritual began not with the painting, but with the creation of the paint itself, a process of transformation. She ground the stone, releasing its color, its spirit. The red, the color of blood,
then the black, the color of darkness, of the deep earth, of the spirit world, a pigment born of the sky's fire. But powder alone was not paint. It needed a binder, a medium to give it substance and permanence. The fat and the earth were combined, a sacred alchemy, transforming the elements into a substance that could capture a soul.
Red for the body, for the blood, for the hunt. Black for the spirit, for the darkness, for the... Their brushes, too, were born of the wild. The frayed end of a stick, a soft tuft of fur, their own fingers.
The brush was loaded. The earth, the fire, the animal, and the human mind were all combined in a single, pregnant drop of paint.
A final moment of connection. To call the spirit of beast in the cave. And then, with a hand guided by the spirit world, she made the first sacred mark. The first mark. Not just a line, but a breath. The beginning of a conversation between humanity. She moved with an ancient rhythm, a dance with the spirits. Each stroke a chant, each line
The form emerged. Not a mere animal, but an archetype. The embodiment of strength, of bounty, of the sacred prey. She blended the pigment with the rock, blurring the line between the image and the earth itself, bringing the animal forth from the living stone.
Then, the black. To give it form, to give it power, to define the very essence.
Through observation, the next generation absorbed not just the craft, but the profound spiritual significance of every stroke.
A sacred touch. A bond forged with the spirit of the animal. A promise of respect. A plea for its life. With breath and pigment, she brought it fully to life, surrounding it with an aura, a spiritual mist that blurred the lines of reality. The spirit made manifest. Every detail a prayer, every line a direct appeal to the unseen powers that governed the hunt. The painting was finished. The animal's spirit now resided within the stone. A power.
The spirit had been summoned. Now, the hunters themselves had to be brought into the sacred space to face it.
They came face to face with the soul of their prey, not as a beast of flesh and bone, but as a powerful, living spirit on the stone.
The drum began, our heartbeat for the Mother Earth, a rhythm to blur the lines between the worlds. She became the animal, to understand its spirit, to feel its fear, to honor its life. And the hunters became the pack, their movements a prayer, their focus a weapon. A symbolic kill, a promise made to the spirit of the bison, a guarantee of a swift, clean, and respectful death in the world of the living. They were now marked, blessed by the spirit of the earth, their purpose aligned with the will of the wild.
An offering, a trade, their skill and respect in exchange for the animal's life. A ritual had worked its magic. It had not changed their spears, but it had sharpened their minds, steadied their hands, and fortified their spirits.
They were ready to leave the world of spirits and to bring its blessing back into the world of flesh and bone.
They emerged from the cave not as desperate men, but as instruments of the spirit world, their purpose consecrated in the deep earth. Her work was done. She had opened the door to the spirit world. Now, the hunters had to walk the path. They moved with a new sense of clarity. Their senses, sharpened by the ritual, were now attuned to the subtle whispers of the wild. The ritual had not given them magic spears. It had given them focus, a profound state of awareness, where every detail held meaning.
He saw not what was there, but what had been there. The ghost of a herd.
Through touch, through scent, through a lifetime of knowledge, he could read the story of their passage. The hunt was now a pursuit of ghosts. This was the true power of the blessing, not to make the prey appear, but to give them the unshakable faith to find it. They journeyed for a day, and then another, their faith in the ritual and in their leader, absolute. And then, their faith was rewarded. The ghosts they had been chasing had finally taken form.
The ritual had not brought the prey to them. It had guided them to the prey. The spiritual hunt was over. This was not a hunt of desperation, but of faith. They did not rush. They sought not just any beast, but the one promised to them in the ritual, the spirit on the wall, now made flesh.
They moved with a new confidence, a shared mind, their steps guided by the spiritual blueprint of the hunt. Their faith banished their fear. They became part of the landscape, invisible. Their heart, the trap was not of wood or stone this time, but of flesh, bone, and a single, unified purpose.
The signal was given, not a roar of aggression, but a precise, calculated command to spring the trap.
They revealed themselves not as stealthy killers, but as a sudden, terrifying, inescapable wall of noise and aggression.
Their goal was not to fight the herd, but to break it, to shatter its unity, to turn its strength into chaos. And in the heart of the chaos they created, they focused their will on a single target, the one promised to them.
The herd was gone. The target was isolated. Now, the true test of their faith and their skill would begin. The final battle began not with a roar, but with a silent test of wills.
The giant charged, its full, terrifying power unleashed in a single, focused point of destruction. But they did not scatter. They flowed. Their discipline, honed by the ritual, allowed them to move as one.
The first blows were struck, not to kill, but to wound, to bleed the giant of its strength, its rage, and its speed.
Their strategy was a dance of ghosts, to strike and then to vanish, leaving only pain and confusion in their wake. Again and again they performed their deadly ballet, luring the charge, evading the horns, and leaving a fresh wound with every pass.
The exhaustion hunt. Finally, its immense strength was spent. The great spirit of the bison, its will to fight. The final moments. A silent acknowledgement between the hunter and the hunted. The respect promised in the ritual, now delivered on the field of battle. But even in death, the spirit of the giant had one last act of defiance. They met its final charge not with fear, but with a calm, disciplined grace. Its great heart, its immense power finally surrendered. The final moments. A somber, necessary act to honor the spirit of the beast and end its great suffering. They moved as one. A final, merciful act, delivered with the skill and respect promised in the sacred cave. The final blows, swift and certain. An end to the struggle, an end to the giant, a life given so that their clan might live. And then, silence. A moment of respect. A silent thanks to the spirit of the great beast.
And then, the joy. The raw, unrestrained triumph of having achieved the impossible, of having banished the shadow of starvation.
They had done it! They had outsmarted a giant! Their faith had been rewarded.
The news was sent. The great feast, the survival of their clan, the honoring of the spirits, all was now secure.
He ran, carrying a story too large for words. A tale of impossible victory. In the cave, they waited. A silence thick with hope, and the ever-present. And then, the news. Not just a kill, but a giant!
The news shattered their despair, igniting a joyous, unified rush to claim their future. The entire clan marched to the kill site, a veritable army of butchers and porters, every member with a role, every hand with a purpose. This was a pilgrimage of hope, a journey not of the hunt, but of the harvest, a journey to the prize their faith had won.
And then they saw it, the scale of their victory. A sight so immense it stole their breath and silenced their cheers.
But before the harvest, there had to be thanks. The spiritual contract had to be honored. The spirit of the great beast had to be appeased.
The circle was now complete. The spirit that was marked in the cave was now honored in the flesh. The hunt was truly over.
With the spirit honored, the clan could now claim its reward. The great feast, the survival of their people, was at hand.
The ritual was complete. The spiritual work was done. Now, the physical work.
Their first challenge was the hide. An armor of leather and fur, several inches thick, that had to be breached before the true prize could be claimed.
A division of labor, a specialization of skill. The heavy axes for the brute force, the fine flakes for the ism.
The work continued for hours, a perfectly coordinated ballet of butchery. Each member...
Such a colossal success was a beacon in the frozen world. The scent of blood and meat traveled for miles, but their plan had accounted for this. They knew a prize this great would have to be defended, not just from the cold, but from the hungry dark.
They formed a ring of fire and sharpened stone, a defiant guard against the encroaching shadows. The feast would be protected.
Their coordinated defense, born in the great hunt, held firm. They would not surrender a single screw.
Behind the wall of warriors, the vital work of processing the meat continued through the night, a testament to their focus and their trust in their gods. This was the true power of the blessed hunt, not just the kill, but the unbreakable, coordinated cuttings. The night was a long, grueling test of endurance, a standoff between human discipline and... They worked in shifts, their unflinching discipline a weapon in itself. The wall of fire could not be allowed to falter. The impasse held. The hyenas, masters of the opportunistic kill, were thwarted by a level of cooperation they could not comprehend. Every part of the great beast held a purpose. The sinews, the future threads of their technology. The bones, their... And in the midst of the grueling labor, ingenuity, sparked by hardship, revealed a new solution. The first of the bounty began its journey home, a precious cargo guarded by a phalanx of fire. But even amidst the frenzy of the harvest, the spiritual world was not forgotten. The sacred... The great horns, the very symbol of the beast's power, were claimed. A trophy, a tool, and the dawn broke, and the night's siege was over. The clan's endurance had outlasted the hyena's hunger. The night was won. Now, the race against the sun, against decay, and the long journey home would continue. The dawn brought no rest, only a new and monumental challenge. To transport a mountain of meat, peace, every step was a battle against the terrain and the crushing weight of their success. But every challenge was met with a new spark of ingenuity. First of the bounty arrived home, not to rest, but to begin the final, crucial race against decay and the coming winter. Preservation was the key to long-term survival, a skill as vital as the hunt itself, passed down through generations of mothers and daughters.
The cave became a larder, its smoky air a shield against rot, preserving their future one strip at a time. They understood their environment intimately. They knew that the great cold, their constant enemy, could also be...
The lean meat was smoked. The rich fat was frozen. A sophisticated dual-pronged strategy to maximize their...
And the hide, a prize as valuable as the meat, was prepared. A future of warmth, of shelter, of new clothes.
It was a living machine of cooperation. A complex, logistical masterpiece, running day and night, fuel...
Their reward was security. A fortress not just against the beasts of the wild, but against the greatest beast of all.
The Great Feast. A celebration not just of a successful hunt, but of life itself. A defiant roar against the silence of the long winter.
In their triumph, there was order. The bravest were honored first, but the reward was understood to be for the entire... For the young, it was a miracle. A promise of strength, of warmth, of a future free. The shaman watched, her own hunger sated by the sight of her thriving clan. Her communion with the spirits had been... But the feast was not just for the living. The spirit of the great bison, which had given its life, had to be
Extensive. The heart was given to the fire, its spirit released to the sky. A final act of thanks, of balance.
The circle had to be closed. The story, which began in the world of spirit, had to return there to be completed. They returned to the blueprint of the hunt, to the spiritual promise that had been made in the deep earth. The symbolic wound was now made real.
The painting was no longer a plea for success. The ritual was complete. The story was now immortal. A lesson and a legend for all.
Their victory over the bison was not just a successful hunt. It was the birth of a new economy, a new way of life.
With the threat of starvation banished, they had the time and resources to perfect their craft.
Bone needle. The bone needle. A simple invention, yet it revolutionized their world, allowing them to create tailored.
The horns of the beast, once symbols of its power, were now a new resource, a material harder and more durable than any wood. A tool born from their kill, it allowed them to harvest the frozen earth with newfound ease, unlocking food sources that were previously out of reach.
And with abundance came something new. Time. Time to think, to create. Art became a tool of education. The story of the Great Hunt was now a textbook, a three-dimensional map to ensure the knowledge would never be lost. Their victory had transformed them. They no longer moved through their world as fearful prey. They were now the undisputed masters of their valley.
The skull of the giant became their standard, a silent declaration of their power, their ingenuity, and their place in this world.
The Great Hunt had given them more than a meal. It had given them a future. It had given them the tools to build a civilization.
The Great Hunt had not just fed them for a week, but had armed them against the entire winter. For the first time,
abundance bought them their most precious resource, time. Time to think, to experiment, to perfect their craft beyond the immediate needs of survival.
from the bones of the land giants, they crafted the tools to conquer the river, unlocking a whole new ecosystem of food and resources.
Tombs. They had always been cave dwellers, subject to the limits of the rock. Now, from the body of their prey,
With security came the luxury of expression. Their stories, once confined to the cave wall, could now be. Survival gave way to culture. Art, adornment, and a new sense of identity began to flourish in the warmth of their secure cave.
Their art became their classroom, their greatest legend, a textbook of natural history, of...
the great beast, in its death, had given them everything. Food, shelter, tools. The lessons of the Blessed Hunt had been learned. The clan was no longer just surviving the Ice Age. They were beginning to master it. First, they had faced their greatest fear, not with brute strength, but with the power of their minds and the strength of their community.
The years passed. The Great Hunt was no longer a memory, but a legend. And the walls of their cave...
The shaman became a historian, a librarian of the stone. Each painting, a chapter.
They left their mark, generation after generation. A simple, profound declaration. Their minds, sharpened by complex strategy, began to grasp new concepts. The rhythm of time. The memory of the great beast was transformed. It was no longer an enemy, but a revered ancestor. The ritual, once a desperate measure, became tradition. A way to carry the strength and wisdom of their greatest...
And then, they were gone. Their fires died out. Their voices faded. Their great story. For thousands of years, the sacred chamber waited in silence, a time capsule of a lost world, its secrets undisturbed.
Until one day, a new light pierced the darkness, and the voices of our ancestors.
And their stories, preserved in mineral and shadow, give us a breathtaking glimpse into the spiritual heart of the Ice Age hunter.
Again. To stand in this sacred space is to feel a direct connection across 100,000 generations.
Modern science can now read the stories hidden within the paint itself, revealing where they gathered their pigments, what they mixed with the earth.
Allowing us to resurrect their lost world, to witness the ritual as it was, in a cathedral of stone and chant.
Why did they do it? Perhaps for the same reasons we still look to the heavens today. In a vast, indifferent region, the ritual was not just about pleasing the gods. It was a profound psychological tool.
It was a way to forge a group of individuals into a single, unified entity. A pack, a tribe, a team.
The need to tell our story, to capture the spirit of our world on a flat.
Our fascination with these great beasts, our respect for their power, has not faded. It is a memory and the need to connect, to teach, to pass our wisdom to the next generation is the very engine of our civilization. The struggles and triumphs of our ancient ancestors are not just a story of the past. They are the echoes that continue to shape who we are today.
The world has changed beyond recognition. The megafauna are gone. The great ice has retreated.
And the hunt continues, not for meat, but for knowledge, for progress, for a deeper understanding of the universe.
We still gather around the fire, drawn to its warmth,
its light, and its power.
And we still seek a connection to something greater than ourselves. A way to focus our minds, to find our purpose.
The echoes in the caves are not just a story of the past. They are a mirror, reflecting the enduring,
a spirit that learned to face a world of unimaginable danger, not with bigger claws or sharper teeth, but with the power of the story, the strength of the community,
And the unshakable belief that they were part of something larger than themselves.
The struggles and triumphs of our ancient ancestors are not just a story of the past. They are the echoes that continue to shape who we are.
And they remind us that the hunt for meaning, for connection, and for our place in the great story of life